Let's look at the other hits with the box office top 10, starting at number 11, which is Layla. Kat Ashworth on our YouTube channel. I saw this at a free preview a couple of weeks back. I went in knowing nothing but the title, and I loved it. I probably should caveat that by saying I'm non-binary myself. I cringed during scenes of dead naming and internally cheered when Princey corrected Max. Layla and my own experiences of being non-binary are different, but I felt so seen, according to Kat.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is Anurag Hadi's feature debut, and I think the thing that's really good about it is that the story is very specific to Anurag Hadi's own lived experience of the world. But I think its appeal is universal. I think the story that it tells it is something that could be appreciated by anybody. I'm really impressed that you went to see a movie called Layla just on the basis of the title and you didn't know anything about it. And that's a real punt to take. And I'm really glad you like it because I think it's a really interesting film.
Number 10, The Magic Reindeer, Saving Santa's Sleigh.
Yes, so I haven't seen this, but I can report there's a Finnish-Irish animation that reworks the themes of The Lion King. I know nothing more about it than that. If anyone's seen it, let us know.
Finnish-Irish collaboration. That's intriguing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of animation is international co-production. If you think, for example, things like The Red Turtle, that was, that had a number of different elements. I think the studio it was based in was actually Belgian, I think. Anyway, or Luxembourg. Anyway, so with animation, that often happens.
It'll be one of those Scandinavian countries, Holland or something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Number 9, Venom, The Last Dance, probably the last week as well.
Yes, I would think so. This is its 5th week in the charts. I mean, a complete car crash of a film, but, people apparently enjoyed it.
Number 8, well, now I've got Listy Do M6, brackets, Letters to Santa 6, close brackets.
Yes. So this is the 6th part of a popular Polish series, Letters to Santa. Again, not press screened. So if you have seen it, let us know.
Correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com. And if you've seen that and Saving Santa's Sleigh, then you're doubly worth it. And we will cherish you forever.
We'll definitely read your email.
Number 7, Small Things Like These.
Great performance by Cillian Murphy. And the interesting thing about this drama is I had wondered at the time when it was first released whether or not it was going to be too low-key to draw an audience. I have spoken to several independent cinema managers who said that they have virtually been turning people away from screenings because it's doing so well. So very, very impressive that in its 4th week, this is still doing that. And a real credit to Cillian Murphy's power to draw people into the cinema.
And it comes up in correspondence a bit later on. The Wild Robot is at number 6.
Yeah, lovely to look at. Very sweet, melancholic animation. I enjoyed it very much. And from the correspondence that we've had, it seems that most people have.
It's number 7 in America. Number 5 here is Heretic. It's number 8 in the States.
It's Hugh Grant in his... Well, I think this is in his pomp, but also, we were saying before, I think this is the very finest moment in his career. He's arrived at a point when he appears not to be able to put a foot wrong, and he's great in Heretic. And it's a really entertaining film. It does lose its way in the last third, but he holds the whole thing together. And I just think, it's really impressive that at this point in his career, he is at the very height of his powers.
Red One is at number 4.
Yeah, if you want to see a Dwayne Johnson film, go and see Moana 2. You really don't need this in your life. And also, remember, if you pay to go and see it, you'll just encourage them to make Red 2.
Number 3 is Paddington in Peru.
Not enough Sanjeev. And they do take Paddington away from London, which sort of undermines the Paddington brief. But that said, it's a film which celebrates the best in all of us. And I think, as you were saying before, it's that version of Britain that we would all like to believe is true, in which, in the end, we are, we are loving and caring and welcoming
and generous and open-hearted. I guess you could say in its favour, although it does leave London, and I get the London point.
Yeah,
he's not going to the Isle of Wight or the Isle of Man or the south of France or Spain. He actually comes from Peru, so therefore, at least in the story, there's a reason for him going to Peru.
Yes, no, there is a logic to it, yes.
Gladiator II is at number 2.
So there's been much correspondence, as you know, about baboons. About, okay, they're not space monkeys, they're baboons. And then somebody sent me a thing on Instagram, said, "Have you seen this? It's a baboon with alopecia, and this is the closest thing that I have seen to the space monkeys in Gladiator II." And they showed there's a picture of a real thing.
Yeah.
No, they're space monkeys. I mean, they may well be baboons. Like at some point when
they've been altered, haven't they?
It's just, I mean, I love this. First things first, they're not real in any way at all. They're made up by a computer. But secondly, I am absolutely certain that at that point in the discussion, by which point I presume they'd already decided to put the sharks in the Colosseum.
Are you trying to say the sharks are not real? Come on.
Here's the thing, that the more I think about this, I mean, I really enjoyed Gladiator II. I really did. It makes no sense, but I really enjoyed it. The thing that the more I think about it how did they get the sharks there? I mean, what did they do? Did they catch the sharks in the sea and then put them in a tank and then transport the tank from the sea to Rome? And how did the shark? How did they get there?
That absolutely is one of the many points that you go, I don't think so. Smash Brothers Assemble on our YouTube channel. Every time Ridley Scott makes a film, the movie gods flip a coin. Julian Bailey, also on our YouTube channel. Did anyone else want to shout out loud, "What's on the scores, George Dawes," every time Matt Lucas appears?
Yes, I did.
It's a very strange moment. Overall, a meh film that had good moments and I will happily never watch again. I can see the vision that they were aiming for, but got nowhere near. Tokyo Dove says, "I was surprised how incredibly contrived the plot is, the climax of which seems to rely entirely on the decision of one random general we've never heard of or seen before, agreeing to move his army against Rome because of a random courier brings him a ring and tells him that a lost prince who everyone thought had been dead for over a decade had suddenly returned." Their point about it all kind of falling apart, if you think about it for too long, extends to the motivations and choices that many of the characters make as well. Thank you, Tokyo Dove.
Yeah, but how did the sharks get there? Sorry.
Yes, it's my next question for Ridley if we meet again. Yong Lulu says, out of all the film reviewers, only Mark could find a way to mention Nick Cave, Caligula, and his hatred of Jared Leto's House of Gucci performance in a Gladiator II review. It has to be. I mean, Yong's got a point. I think no one else would have mentioned it.
Although the Nick Cave thing wasn't crowbarred in, it was a real thing. Nick Cave really did write, the story in which Russell Crowe goes to hell, fights the gods, gets sent back to Earth to kill Jesus. I mean, that's a real thing.
And number one here, and so that's number two. And number one here and in the States, and as we say occasionally, it's very number one. It's Wicked. Craig Scowler in Glasgow, age 42. Dear Elphaba and Glinda, long-term listener, second-time emailer. My 10-year-old daughter and I went to see Wicked on Friday night. I could complain about having to drive 12 miles to find a cinema that had 2 seats together, despite booking 5 days in advance. I could complain about the sea of screens that made the first 20 minutes of the film feel like a Coldplay concert. I could complain about the woman next to me who scoffed her way through a promotional metal bucket of popcorn, only to then refill it with M&Ms, which made it sound like she was conducting an FA Cup draw from the late 1980s. Stevenage will play number 7 Notts County. However, I'm not going to complain about any of those things. Instead, I just want to say that Wicked, Part 1, was what cinema was made for. A Friday night, a packed house, cheers, gasps, laughs, tears, and finally, applause. Streaming and home entertainment has its place, but on Friday night, as we all stood to applaud in unison, I was reminded that nothing, and I mean nothing, will ever replace the cinema-going experience. Thank you, Craig. And on the subject of applause, because I was talking about this, about Wicked at Wickedy Wawa at Greatest Hits, and there were, I think that 2 of the people in the conversation, there had been applause at the end, which I don't think we've had. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've had a listener write about applause at the end of the film since the King's Speech.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which came from a listener in Dublin who was making the point that for people to applaud the British King in Dublin is quite a moment.
Yes.
But it is a very rare thing for an audience to spontaneously applaud.
Here's the even more interesting thing. People applauding at the end of the King's Speech became a news story, and one of the reasons that was attributed to it was that the King's Speech was attracting an older audience. It was doing very well with the cup of tea and a biscuit screenings, the silver screenings. The thing with Wicked is that is not the case. Wicked clearly has a demographic which is far younger than the King's Speech. So in a way, the idea that people are applauding at the end of Wicked, I mean, I know the reason that's been given is it's like the theatre. If the curtain closes at the end of the first half, you all applaud. But I think the fact that the younger audience of Wicked is doing it is even more remarkable than that the generally older audience of the King's Speech were doing it.
Yes, very, very interesting. It's probably the first film that most of the audience have applauded at the end. And also we're into showman territory here because everyone at work was planning to go and see it again.
Yes. Or actually, in that case, I wonder whether people did applaud at the end of The Greatest Showman. I don't remember. I remember people, going multiple times and singing along. And of course, the sing-along thing has been a big news story. There's been all this stuff about don't sing. People are going to the cinema in order to hear Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. They don't need to hear you doing it. And then there are, of course, actual sing-along screenings. And there was a joke on Jimmy Fallon about this huge bucket of popcorn that could be used to be put over the head of anyone singing. So that has become an issue, apparently. I loved the film. I haven't seen the stage show. I absolutely loved the film. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't. But you would be tempted if someone is filling a metal bucket with M&Ms.
I know, that's ridiculous.
A racket.
Yeah, but that's not singing along. That's filling a metal bucket with M&Ms. I mean, who goes to the cinema with a metal bucket of popcorn?
A lot of people.
Hey, Simon, apparently we've got 20 seconds to tell people how fabulous NordVPN is.
Okay, 1, you get access to streaming services in other countries. 2, you save money on booking holidays as well as having premium cybersecurity on your devices, and all for the price of a coffee a month.
To get your exclusive NordVPN deal, go to nordvpn.com/kmtake for a huge discount on your NordVPN plan and a bonus gift.
It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description below.